What if I told you the revolution that changed Cuba in 1959 never actually ended? It just went quiet, waiting for the right moment to explode again? For more than 65 years, the same political system, the same leadership structure, and the same tensions with the outside world have shaped daily life on this small island. But now in 2026, something feels different. The pressure is building, the frustration is visible, and many experts believe Cuba may be approaching one of the most important turning points in its modern history. Before we continue, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel because on Cuba Explained, we break down complex global events into simple, clear stories that help you understand what's really happening behind the headlines. The Cuban Revolution of 1959 was not just a change of government, it was a complete transformation of society. When Fidel Castro and his revolutionary movement overthrew the regime of Fulgencio Batista, they promised equality, dignity, and independence from foreign influence. For many Cubans, especially the poor, this promise felt like hope, finally arriving after decades of inequality. Education became free, healthcare became universal, and the government took control of major industries to ensure resources were distributed equally. On paper, it sounded like a system designed to protect the people. But over time, the reality became more complicated. Centralized control meant limited economic freedom, limited political choice, and limited access to global markets. The United States imposed a strict economic embargo, cutting Cuba off from one of the world's largest economies. This created a situation where the government blamed external pressure, while many citizens felt trapped inside a system that rarely changed. Decade after decade, the structure remained stable, but stability does not always mean progress. Many young Cubans grew up hearing stories about revolutionary pride, yet living with shortages of basic goods like medicine, fuel, and even food. Internet access, once heavily restricted, slowly expanded, allowing ordinary citizens to see how the rest of the world was evolving. And when people compare their lives to others globally, expectations begin to change. In recent years, Cuba has faced multiple crises at the same time. The global pandemic severely damaged tourism, one of the country's main sources of income. Inflation increased sharply after economic reforms attempted to modernize the currency system. Power outages became more frequent, sometimes lasting for hours or even days, affecting daily life, businesses, and public morale. Videos shared online showed long lines outside grocery stores and pharmacies, revealing a level of frustration that was becoming harder to ignore. For the first time in decades, public protests began to appear more frequently. These were not large-scale revolutions, but they were symbolic moments that signaled something important. People were willing to speak openly. Social media played a major role in giving ordinary citizens a platform that had never existed before. Information now travels faster than control. The government has tried to balance reform with stability, introducing limited private business opportunities and encouraging foreign investment. Small restaurants, taxis, and rental businesses have appeared in major cities like Havana, showing that economic flexibility is slowly increasing. But many analysts believe these changes may not be enough to solve deeper structural challenges. Cuba's population is also aging rapidly, and many young professionals are leaving the country in search of better opportunities abroad. This creates a cycle where fewer workers support an increasing number of retirees, placing additional strain on the economy. Meanwhile, international relations continue to influence Cuba's future. Relations with the United States have shifted multiple times depending on political leadership in Washington. Periods of openness have allowed travel and trade opportunities, while periods of tension have reinforced restrictions. This uncertainty makes long-term planning difficult for Cuban businesses and citizens alike. Some experts believe that meaningful economic transformation will require broader reforms, including increased private sector participation and improved access to global financial systems. Others argue that sudden changes could risk social instability, something the government has tried to avoid since 1959. The real question is not whether change will happen, but how fast it will happen and how it will affect everyday life. Around the world, we have seen similar moments where long-standing systems faced growing pressure from economic realities and public expectations. Technology has made it nearly impossible for any country to remain isolated forever. Ideas travel, comparisons happen, and demands evolve. Cuba today stands at the intersection of history and possibility. Some citizens remain proud of the social achievements of the revolution, particularly in healthcare and education. Others feel frustrated by limited economic opportunities and restrictions that shape daily decisions. Both perspectives exist at the same time, creating a complex national identity that cannot be simplified into a single narrative. In 2026, global attention is slowly returning to Cuba, not because of conflict, but because of uncertainty. Investors are watching closely, policymakers are debating potential shifts, and Cuban families are asking what the future will look like for the next generation. Will Cuba maintain its traditional model with gradual adjustments, or will external pressure and internal demand accelerate deeper reform? History shows that systems rarely remain unchanged forever. The revolution of 1959 reshaped Cuba for decades, but history also shows that every generation eventually writes its own chapter. The coming years may not bring dramatic headlines overnight, but subtle changes often lead to the most significant transformations. What happens next could redefine Cuba's role in the global economy, its relationship with international partners, and the daily lives of millions of people who call the island home. If you found this breakdown helpful, share your thoughts in the comments, because your perspective helps create deeper conversations. Do you think Cuba will gradually reform, or could 2026 become the year that truly changes everything? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Cuba. Explain for more clear, engaging stories that make global events easier to understand. But here's a small twist many people overlook. The biggest change in Cuba may not come suddenly through politics or protests, but quietly through expectations. A new generation of Cubans is now more connected to the world than ever before. Through smartphones and social media, they can see how people live, work, and build opportunities in other countries. Once people begin to imagine a different future, it becomes very difficult to ignore those possibilities. Even small economic openings could slowly create momentum, allowing entrepreneurship and innovation to grow step by step. Change this time may not look like a loud revolution. It may look like a steady evolution. Cuba's location also keeps it important globally, sitting just 90 miles from the United States, meaning even small diplomatic shifts could create noticeable economic impact through travel, trade, and investment. History often shows that the biggest turning points happen quietly before the world fully notices. Cuba today may be closer to such a moment than many realize, where gradual pressure, technology, and generational thinking slowly reshape the future. If you made it this far, share your thoughts in the comments, because your opinion adds depth to the conversation. Share this video with someone curious about global change, because the next big shift in history might already be beginning.